Hi, everybody. This is Marilyn. Do we have any audio today? Yes, we do. I have no idea why we didn't yesterday. The gremlins. Anyway, hello, everybody. This is Marilyn, and it's time for the noon edition of Welcome to My World. This is the 13th of July. Wow, we're almost to the middle of July already. Um, We're sure having a kind of an interesting morning here. I don't know how many people have uh, tried to put up a chart of this RTY, which is the old TF, um, but I just kind of watching a little tiny one to try and get a feel for volume on it. Uh, uh, it's going to take a while till this thing is ready to be traded as far as I can see because we need volume, and they just don't have it yet. Not a heck of a lot. So when we start to see the volume come into that thing, and it does become tradable, I'll try to let everybody know because I think some people have been waiting for this transfer of the TF, the old TF from ICE onto the CME. But we just have to give it a little time. The rest of the indices have, they've kind of been, the YM and the ES have been in real close sync this morning. The NQ put up two interesting, very interesting 30-minute candles. Let's see, that was at not from 9:30 to 10 and from 10 to 10:30. Half hour up and a half hour down, almost identical ranges. You don't see that very often, but both of those were certainly tradable. This morning, the big move, which I wasn't real sure it would continue, but it was on bonds. This morning when I got my system up, it was a little bit earlier, and it was trying to mess around right at settlement, but it put in a sling right over settlement with a star on top of that, if you like the C's with the stars chart, and went right down to the red ice and a little beyond. But that was certainly a nice trade. Gold has been a little difficult to read all morning, and it's choppy, choppy, chop, chop. And then we've had crude oil. Crude oil at the open this morning, it was. I've got one feed that was a little weird. Looked like it gapped up right at the pit open. But anyway, it's been in an uptrend all morning. And the interesting thing about this is we're still in a red apex. Once it gets above settlement like this, it could change, but it's going to have to take some momentum and some volume to get it turned around. But if you notice, the 6-tick has it's been making green apexes all morning, so it's at least trying to get the trend turned around. Probably going to take another day or two to do that, if it does even get that done. But the drawdown yesterday was quite a bit less than what had been forecast. And so when that report came out, the chattering folks are talking about how uh, everybody ought to cut production and let the price settle. I don't know how viable that idea really is in practicality, but they do like to talk. The YM this morning was in a real choppy, it still is. It's not, certainly yesterday it was way better, but that chop is, that can be very frustrating to trade. So the best thing, if you notice, it's been chopping right over settlement, and today the blue ice is right on top of settlement practically. So we've got the VIX, the VIX headed up a little bit. I mean, maybe it was going to head up a little bit. It got up over, I don't know, around 11 and a half. Right now it's trying its very level best to hold 10. So clearly there's not a heck of a lot of fear built into this. And let's see, this morning we had some economic numbers released. At 8:30, the unemployment claims came in just about where they'd been forecast. Not a big deal. 3,000 below the previous and a couple thousand above the forecast. So it was all kind of a non-starter. But Mrs. Yellen was supposed to testify at 10 o'clock this morning. And sometimes, depending on what she says, we could see some movement, but it looks like everything's just kind of in a bit of a ho-hum mode right now. Yeah, and Aaron makes a very good point. Thanks, Aaron, that all the volume is still on the ice. So I think a lot of the big traders that would really like to trade off the CME, they prefer it. And certainly all those guys that work at the CME would like to trade off the CME also. It kind of strikes me it's everybody sitting around saying, after you, no, after you, no, you go first. So sooner or later, the volume will pick up. It could take, a few days, it could take a few weeks, it could take a few months, it might be a year, but eventually we'll get the volume in that thing. And interestingly enough, it never did have the kind of volume, certainly not the kind of volume you see on the ES or the NQ. But I guess we're back to our favorite pastime, which is peeing, right? We got to go for the patience. So tomorrow morning, let's see, tomorrow's going to be Friday. And Friday, we've got 8:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Might be some opportunity on the euro. But at 8:30, we're going to have retail sales and the core CPI will be released. And at 9:15, a little bit more is going to be released, but they're not that significant. 8:30, though, I'd be real careful about that. Retail sales have been down significantly, and we might get a little movement at 8:30 in response to whatever they put out, especially if they continue to be under the forecast. So another thing, Kelly has posted on the Apex website on the news tab. She's trying to get the earnings releases for some of these major market moving stocks into that thing. So when we get into the height of earnings again, which will probably be September-ish, then uh, I think it'll behoove all of us to pay real close attention to that Apex website, the news tab, because when some of these big ones are released before the market open, some of those stocks trade uh, pre-market also. I mean, a huge amount of volume comes in when the exchange opens, but the futures markets, sometimes those can move, and especially on the NQ at 4 o'clock, when they release, some of those big market movers, when they say after market, market close, they mean at 4 o'clock. And so between 4 o'clock and 4, I don't know, not later than 4:10, you need to be out, as far as I'm concerned, by 4:10, just to make darn sure you get out if there is a big market move caused by those things. So anyway, and then this afternoon at 4 o'clock, don't forget, and this is 4 o'clock Eastern, in this room, Lori's going to do a little training on this OP, the order print. So I'm really looking forward to that too. Power play, okay. Well, it all goes together. And that's Lori's world. So, and that will be recorded. So in case you can't make it, it will be posted. Anybody that wants to know when any of this stuff gets posted on the YouTube or on the website or whatever it is, wherever you find that stuff, yes, 4 p.m. Eastern time, go to YouTube and then subscribe to Apex, and you'll get an email. It's an auto email. And yes, John, it will be in this room. So don't close up your hotcom if you're planning to be around at 4 o'clock. And she'll be able to show screenshots. I mean, she'll have a camera on her chart so we can all see exactly what she's talking about. And then that recording is another good reason for that, is then we can all go back and watch it again and again. So some of this stuff is a little, it's a little bit much to expect to capture all of the information and then have it sink in. So there's two different phases, it seems to me, to some of this stuff, and that is the phase where you see it and you kind of understand it and stuff, but then after that, you really have to let it kind of marinate and sink in to get it real solid. And then, of course, it does take practice. There's no question about it. That's another piece. So, I think that's about it. Some of these currencies have really moved this morning too. So if you're a